It's been 10 years since I retired as a private investigator because I was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. I can't really remember much about my life, but there are events that keep flashing in my mind. Events that I wished permanently disappeared when Alzheimer's came around. I couldn't tell what had really happened at that time, or when and where it happened. But these flashes were bloody, and I'd hear the voice of a woman screaming for help. But I couldn't recall who she was or the baby, and these flashes had been going on for years. Hello, who's this?
My name is Mia Sullivan. Am I speaking with Detective Walter Blake?
Retired. I've been out of service for over a decade now.
I'm aware of that, but there's this case I need you to have a look at. Possible homicide.
I told you, I dropped my badge for a long time now, and I'm not interested in picking it up again.
He's back, Walter.
Who's back?
I think the person responsible for your wife's death is back.
Even if I forgot everything about me, I'll never forget Diane, the love of my life. The only reason I lived. I remember the first day I saw her. She was running the tracks alone in college. I approached her and told her I could beat her in a run, and so we began running. And then she left me to keep running alone. I came home that night to find my 1-year-old daughter on the lawn, crying. The front door was wide open. Diane. I walked in and found her, lying on the floor, arm joints and leg joints, all broken to pieces. I quickly dialed 911, and then I opened a case file to track her killer. Whoever did it, I knew they were my enemies. They were getting back at me for doing my job diligently. But Diane was a sweet woman who didn't deserve to die like that. After chasing after shadows for years, no fingerprints, surveillance footage, call history, or invoice that could trace me back to her killers, I dropped the case so Diane's soul could find peace. All I had left was my daughter, Whitney, who's been living with her grandparents in Australia just to be safe. It was around this same period I began to forget a lot of things. I got home from work one night and couldn't find Whitney. I called her babysitter, but her line wasn't going through. I realized I didn't go to pick her up from school, so I drove down there, and it was empty. Nobody was there. I then called my colleague, James, whose daughter and mine were in the same class, if he came to pick her up.
Walter, Whitney has been in Australia with your in-laws for 6 months now. You took her there yourself. Are you sure you're okay?
Yeah. Everything's fine. I'm just too busy that I forget a lot these days.
I think you need to see a doctor.
I didn't want to believe I was losing my memory until the doctors confirmed it. I was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. It began to affect my cases. I couldn't remember important leads and where I kept my documents, so I got frustrated with everything and I decided to retire early. But as soon as I heard my wife's killer could be back, I knew he might be coming for me or any of my loved ones this time, and I had to get to him before he got to me. So I went to the crime scene. His arms and leg joints were broken to pieces, just like they did to my wife. Mia walked up to me and showed me a hammer in a plastic bag, the weapon used in committing the murder. Then she asked if I still had any discoveries I made the period I was unto the killer. Maybe the murder weapon or something, but I couldn't remember, even if I had any. So she followed me home, and I told her what I remembered and the position I saw my wife and how I met the house. She asked to see the box where I kept all my files. Maybe there could be a clue I didn't notice. I gave her the box, and she searched and searched for a while. And then she found something, the same type of hammer we found in the crime scene we just left. How could I have forgotten I picked up the weapon used to murder my own wife and just left it in a box? I probably would have solved this case 10 years ago if I had remembered, but there was no reason to beat myself over it now that there's a chance for me to know who really killed my wife and make him pay. The weapons were sent to the lab so that the fingerprints on them could be analyzed, and if they're the same as the one on the latest crime scene, then our case becomes much easier. We'll know we're only looking for just one lunatic.
Who could that be at this time of the night? Hey, Daddy's here. Where's Mommy? Diane! What the?
It's not what you think, Walt. I can explain.
I'll be right back, love.
Walt, please don't hurt him. Walt, please, I'm sorry. I made a very big mistake, and I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I'm sorry.
What says the time?
It's 30 minutes past 1 a.m.
Good. As a mother, your less than a year-old child left her room and was in the living room crying alone. I could literally hear her voice from a few blocks away. And what were you doing that got you so preoccupied at this late hour that made you not even check on her?
Please, Walt, I'm sorry.
That wasn't my question.
I'm so sorry, Walt.
That wasn't what I asked you. Damn it.
Whew. That was just a dream, right? I didn't really kill my wife. No, I didn't kill my wife. I knew I remembered that night very well. But the nightmare I had was saying otherwise. Diane could never cheat on me, and I could never have hurt her. Talk more of ending her life, or the life of the new victim who got murdered the same way. As I was lost in thought, then I heard a knock on my door. It was Mia. She wasn't looking at me as a partner that day, but as a suspect. She asked if I knew the young man who died. I said no, because I didn't. And then she told me to think hard. Think hard. I just said I didn't know who he was, and why was she even asking me all that? I was on my own, minding my own business, when she called me to work on the case with her, and now I'm a suspect.
We found this footage of you about to pull up to a diner when someone else quickly took the spot.
Yeah, but what has that got to do with the case?
It seems you were not happy with his actions, so you stepped out of your vehicle to talk to him, but he wasn't gonna listen. You tried touching him and he pushed you to the ground. You went back into your car and waited for him to come back. When he came back and drove out of the park, you followed him. Do you remember?
No, I don't, and I honestly didn't. She told me there were no footages of me following him home, but neighbors said that they saw a blue Cadillac leaving the apartment. I rode a blue Cadillac, but I didn't remember any of the details. I am not denying if I did follow him or not. I just didn't remember. And just then, the cops entered my house and put me in handcuffs. What's going on?
The fingerprints on both hammers came back and they match yours. Detective Walter, you're under arrest for the murder of Diane Walter and Calvin James.
This can't be true. I'm not a murderer. I didn't kill my wife. I also didn't kill that son of a bitch who took my parking space and pushed me to the ground. I hope he's now feeling up spaces not meant for him in hell.